Welcome to the Impact Academy training. This is Fabrizio speaking, and I will guide you through the Impact Economy Governance training developed by IHF. At the end of this module, you will be able to know the main objectives and targets of the Green Deal, recognize main strategies and action plans of the European Union aimed at supporting impact economy, green transition, and sustainable growth. Understand the difference between European Union regulations and directives. Recognize a sustainable economic activity under the European Union taxonomy regulation. Understand the importance of the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. Know main European Union legislations affecting SMEs production process towards a sustainable transition. Identify and analyze the primary challenges that European Union legislation can pose to SMEs. Describe the goals, functioning and structure of the Sustainable Europe Investment Plan. Explain key features and structures of the Just Transition Mechanism and EU emission trading system. Understand and explain the Next Generation EU and Recovery and Resilience Facility. Use tools to monitor national recovery and resilience plans implementation. Recognize the difference between outcome-based mechanism and outcome funds. Search for opportunities tailored to SMEs under the European Investment Fund, European Social Fund Plus, and Invest EU program. Your journey into the impact economy governance begins with a key milestone in Europe's pathways towards sustainability, the European Green Deal. You will dive into this EU roadmap towards climate neutrality and discover the strategies turning this vision into action. From cutting pollution to transforming industries and food systems, you will discover and understand how EU policies are driving sustainable growth and an inclusive, impact-oriented economy. Section 1. The European Green Deal. Launched by the European Commission in 2019, the Green Deal is more than just a policy. It is a comprehensive vision for transforming the EU into a modern, resource-efficient, and competitive economy. Imagine it as a roadmap, guiding Europe toward a future where economic growth is decoupled from resource use and where no one is left behind in the process. The overachieving goal of the Green Deal is to make Europe the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. But what does that really mean in practice? Here are the main targets that bring this vision to life. Reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030, compared to 1990 levels. This is not just a general ambition, but a binding commitment under the European Climate Law, which entered into force in 2021. Achieve net zero emissions by 2050, meaning that the difference between greenhouse gas emissions released into the atmosphere and those removed from the atmosphere is zero. Adapt society to the unavoidable impacts of climate change. Think of rising sea levels, heat waves, or extreme weather event. These are already happening. And the EU wants to ensure communities are resilient enough to face them. Protect and enhance Europe's natural capital, including forests, soil, water, and biodiversity. These are not just nice to have environmental features. They are essential to our survival and economic prosperity. Safeguard citizens' health and well-being from pollution and environmental degradation. And importantly, ensure fairness and inclusion, that no region or social group is left behind during the green transition. Now that we understand where the European Union wants to go, the next question is, how do we get there? Section 2. European Union Strategies for a Sustainable Growth. To reach the Green Deal's ambitious goals, the European Union has rolled out several targeted strategies. The strategies and action plans developed by the European Commission play a crucial role in shaping policy both within the European Union and beyond. They provide a structured basis for legislation, funding programs, and cross-sector collaboration. Through the following strategies, the European Commission established the EU as a global standard setter in areas such as climate policy, sustainable development, and the circular economy. Green Industrial Plan, Zero Pollution, Action Plan, EU Social Economy Action Plan, Farm to Fork Strategy, Circular Economy Action Plan. For more information, you can visit the training fishes. Section 3. The Circular Economy Action Plan. Imagine a world where products are designed not to be thrown away, but to be repaired, reused, and recycled. Where waste becomes a valuable resource instead of an environmental burden. This is the vision of the circular economy and the Circular Economy Action Plan, launched by the European Commission in March 2020, is the Europe roadmap to make that vision a reality. Unlike the traditional linear economic model, where resources are extracted, used, and then discarded, the circular economy is based on keeping materials in use for as long as possible. It is about designing products that last, creating systems that minimize waste, and encouraging choices that reduce environmental impact across the entire product life cycle. The Circular Economy Action Plan outlines are 35 concrete actions that touch on every stage of the cycle, from pre-production and consumption to waste management and recycling. Importantly, these actions are not just proposals. The European Commission has formally committed to implementing them, meaning each action is followed by clear steps, timelines, and accountability mechanisms. To help citizens, businesses, and policymakers track the implementation of these measures, the Commission has established a monitoring framework. This tool offers transparent updates on how each action is progressing, allowing the public to follow the EU's transition towards a circular economy in real time. For example, one of the key actions involves the definition of eco-design rules that set sustainability requirements for specific products categories, such as electronics and textiles, to reduce their environmental footprint from the design phase onward. If you who want to explore this topic in greater depth, the Circular Economy module provides a structured overview of the principles, policies, and real-world examples behind this transformation model. Unlike the traditional take, make, dispose model, this circular economy keeps materials in use for as long as possible. The Circular Economy Action Plan introduces initiatives that touch every part of the product's life cycle, from design and production to consumption and recycling. In Unit 2, we will explore some of the most recent and relevant pieces of EU legislation that are already influencing or will soon influence the way small and medium-sized enterprises operate across Europe. From binding regulations to flexible directives, you will discover how legal tools impact business strategy and compliance. Section 1. Key legal tools. Regulation versus directive. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a manager, or someone preparing to work in a business environment, it is essential to understand which and how legal tools shape business practices, especially in areas like sustainability and reporting. We will start by clarifying two key types of European Union legislative acts that you will come across: regulations and directives. A regulation is a binding legal act that applies directly and uniformly in all the EU member states. This means that once it is passed at the European Union level, it automatically becomes law in every country, with no need for national governments to take further action to implement it. Example: the EU Taxonomy Regulation provides a common classification system to define which economic activities can be considered environmentally sustainable. This regulation helps investors, companies, and policymakers align their financial and strategic decisions with the EU's green objectives. You can explore more about this in Section 2 of this unit. A directive sets out a goal that all EU countries must achieve, but leaves it up to each country to decide how to do so through its own national laws. This allows for flexibility in implementation while still working towards shared objectives. Example: Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which requires companies to disclose key information on how they manage environmental, social, and governance issues. This directive is reshaping corporate transparency across Europe, but gives each country the freedom to choose how to reach it. For instance, Germany, known for its strong industrial base, has approached the CSRD by expanding the existing German Commercial Code to include more detailed sustainability reporting requirements. On the other side, Italy transported the directive into national law through a legislative decree, updating the existing non-financial reporting obligations for companies. More details on the CSRD are provided in Section 3. Understanding these legal instruments is more than just a technical requirement. It empowers businesses to anticipate change, plan strategically, and contribute actively to the EU's transition towards a more sustainable and fair economy. Section 2. EU Taxonomy Regulation. The EU Taxonomy Regulation is a cornerstone of the European Union's sustainable finance strategy. Its main goal is to create a common language for identifying which economic activities can be considered environmentally sustainable, helping investors, companies, and policymakers steer financially flows towards greener practices. To make the regulation more accessible, the European Commission has created the EU Taxonomy Navigator, an online portal that offers a step-by-step guide to applying the taxonomy, a user guide for beginners and non-specialists, access to criteria search tools, lists of eligible activities, and helpful FAQs. This tool is especially used for SMEs, students, and sustainability professionals who want to understand how the taxonomy works in practice without needing legal or technical expertise. This regulation matters because it sets clear criteria that define what sustainable really means in practice. It supports the European Green Deal by making sure that investments labeled as green are aligned with the real environmental benefits, not just marketing claims. For an activity to be considered environmentally sustainable under the EU taxonomy, it must meet 4 key conditions. Substantial contribution to at least one environmental objective. There are 6 objectives defined in the regulation: climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, sustainable use and protection of water and marine resources, transition to a circular economy, pollution prevention and control, protection and restoration of biodiversity and ecosystems. Do not significant harm, DNSH. The activity must not harm any of the other environmental objectives. For example, a project that helps reduce emissions must not simultaneously damage biodiversity or pollute water sources. Respect for minimum social safeguards. These refer to international human rights and labor standards, e.g., OECD guidelines, European Union guide principles on business and human rights that companies must follow to qualify. Compliance with technical screening criteria. These are detailed environmental performance benchmarks defined in delegated acts, explained below, which vary depending on the sector and activity. Delegated acts are legal instruments used by European Commission to add technical details to the main regulation, without needing to rewrite the entire law. In the case of the taxonomy regulation, they define exactly how an economic activity must perform to meet sustainability standards. There are three main types relevant to the taxonomy. Climate Delegated Act specifies criteria for activities that contribute to climate change mitigation and adaptation, e.g., renewable energy, building renovation. Environmental Delegated Act expands criteria to cover other environmental goals, such as water protection or circular economy. Disclosure Delegated Act guides how companies, especially those under the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CNEC section, must report which part of their business aligns with the taxonomy. Section 3. Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which came into force in January 2023, marks a major step forward in how companies across Europe report on their social and environmental impact. The aim is to improve transparency and help investors, consumers, and stakeholders make informed decisions based on a company's sustainability performance. The directive applies to large firms and some listed SMEs. But even if a business is not directly subject to CSRD, it can still be affected. Many smaller companies are part of larger supply chains. If a large company must report on the environmental and social practices of its suppliers, it will likely request sustainability-related information from the SMEs it works with. This indirect impact is known as the trickle-down effect, and it means that even non-listed SMEs may soon need to start tracking and sharing data on their sustainability efforts. Understanding the CSRD is therefore important not only for compliance, but also for remaining competitive and visible to customers, partners, and investors who are under growing pressure to prove their sustainability credentials. To know more about this CSRD, consult the resource developed by the Impact Academy project available at this link. A document will guide you through companies covered by the directive, timeline for implementation, European sustainability reporting standards, tools to help companies begin preparing. Section 4. Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation. The Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, which entered into force on 18th of July 2024, represents a cornerstone of the EU strategy to make sustainable products the norm across the single market. This proposed regulation extends the principles of eco-design, originally developed for energy-related products, to virtually all physical goods sold in the EU, including imported products. Its overreaching goal is to reduce the environmental footprint of products throughout their entire life cycle, from design and manufacturing to use, repair, and end-of-life management. Manufacturers will be required to design products in line with new eco-design performance requirements. This means increasing durability, repairability, reusability, recyclability, and overall energy and resource efficiency. Introduce a digital product passport for each product, which will store and share information such as materials used, repair options, and environmental impact. The DPP will make sustainability data more transparent across the value chain. Perform internal conformity assessments to verify that their products meet ESPR requirements. Ensure traceability and accountability by displaying contact information on products, packaging, or accompanying documentation. Provide clear user instructions, including guidance for usage, maintenance, and the end-of-life disposal, available in an accessible format and language for consumers across member states. To ease the transition for small and medium-sized enterprises, the Commission proposes specific support tools, such as simplified reporting obligations tailored to SMEs' capacities, guidance and assistance for conducting environmental impact assessments, helping businesses evaluate their products without excessive technical burdens. These support structures are designed to prevent smaller businesses from being left behind and to encourage their participation in the green transition. However, there are both benefits and challenges associated with these new obligations. Benefits for SMEs: encourages repair practices, benefiting SMEs in the repair sector, and promotes environmental innovation. Challenges for SMEs: significant costs and administrative burdens from implementing a digital product passport, limited skills for life cycle analysis, reliance on costly external expertise, concerns over trade secret exposure, and unpredictability due to delegated acts further strain SMEs. Section 5. Packaging Directive. Packaging might seem like a simple detail in the life cycle of a product, but it plays a critical role in the EU's efforts to reduce waste, protect the environment, and move towards a circular economy. This is why the Directive 94/62/EC, most recently amended by the Directive EU 2018/852, sets specific rules for all packaging placed on the EU market. The aim is not only to reduce the amount of waste generated, but also to ensure that packaging materials are reused, recycled, or recovered in the most efficient and sustainable way possible. To comply with the directive, packaging must meet several important criteria. Limit packaging weight and volume while ensuring safety, hygiene, and acceptability. Minimize hazardous substances in packaging material. Design packaging for reuse, recycling, and energy recovery. Recognizing that more ambitious action is needed, especially in light of the European Green Deal, the European Commission proposed in 2022 a new regulation on packaging and packaging waste. Unlike a directive, which allows member states some flexibility in how they implement the rules, a regulation will be directly binding in all countries. This shift is intended to harmonize practices across the European Union and push the packaging sector more decisively toward sustainability goals. This new legal framework brings significant changes, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises. These businesses often have limited resources to quickly adapt to new compliance standards. The new rules tackles Material sourcing. SMEs may need to switch to different raw materials that meet stricter environmental criteria, potentially affecting supplier relationships and costs. Production changes. Manufacturing processes might need to be redesigned entirely, as packaging must now meet new structural and environmental standards. Logistics adjustment. Changes in packaging size, weight, or material could affect how products are stored, shipped, or displayed, requiring logistical recalibration. It is important to understand how such legislation affects not just environmental outcomes, but the way businesses function day to day. These kinds of changes also open opportunities for innovation, eco-design, and competitive differentiation, particularly for companies that can adapt quickly and creatively. Section 6. Directive on repair of goods. In a product's life cycle, the post-sale phase, what happens after a product is purchased, is increasingly seen as a strategic opportunity to reduce waste and extend product use. The Directive on Repair of Goods, which entered into force on July 3, 2024, is part of the broader Rights to Repair initiative and reflects the European Commission's commitment to promoting a more circular economy where repair becomes the first and easiest option. Manufacturers, particularly of products such as household appliances, electronics, and ICT devices, which are often repairable, are now subject to new duties. They must provide a European Repair Information Form, offering clear details about conditions, costs, timelines, and available services, so consumers can compare offers easily and avoid surprises. They are required to offer mandatory repair services for specific products even after the legal guarantee has expired, provided the repair remains technically feasible. They must inform consumers about repair options and obligations, including where and how to access certified repair services. Unlike other European Union regulations that offer targeted support for SMEs, the Directive on Repair of Goods currently does not include specific mitigation measures for smaller businesses, as a directive sets out objectives but leaves flexibility to member states in how they implement support measures. Benefits for SMEs include boost repair sector opportunities, especially for independent repairers. Challenges for SMEs include high administrative costs for the repair information form, difficulty accessing affordable spare parts for repairs, losses for manufacturers and retailers due to reduced sales of new products, increased strain on SMEs in adapting to additional compliance requirements. Unit 3 explores how the European Union is using powerful and financial tools to drive climate action, support fair transitions, and rebuild economies after crisis. As you progress, you will discover the goals, functioning, and structure of the Sustainable Europe Investment Plan, understand how the Just Transition mechanisms and the European Union emissions trading system work, and explore the next generation EU recovery strategy and its core, the Recovery and Resilience Facility. You will also learn how to track national progress using dedicated EU tools, empowering you to not only understand policy, but also to engage with it critically and practically. Section 1. Sustainable Europe Investment Plan. The Sustainable Europe Investment Plan, or SEIP, is the financial backbone of the European Green Deal. Its purpose is to channel at least €1 trillion into sustainable investments over a decade. This significant financial commitment supports the European Union's overachieving goal, achieving climate neutrality by 2050. To understand how this investment is structured, imagine that the SEIP as a house built on several financial foundations, each contributing a different kind of support. EU Budget 2021-2027, Invest EU 2021-2030, Just Transition Mechanism 2021-2027, Innovation and Modernization Funds. For further information, visit the training fish. Section 2. Just Transition Mechanism. Transitions are rarely smooth, and the EU recognizes that some regions and communities will be more affected than others. The Just Transition Mechanism is designed to ensure that no one is left behind. Imagine a coal mining region where thousands depend on fossil fuel-based jobs. As the European Union shifts away from carbon-heavy industries, such communities face job losses and economic instability. The JTM intervenes to provide both financial and technical support, ensuring a fair and inclusive path to sustainability. Key features: it helps workers gain new skills, supports job placement programs, and stimulates economic renewal in struggling areas. Importantly, it does not fund any projects involving fossil fuels. This ensures alignment with climate neutrality goals. Member states must develop and submit territorial just transition plans. These plans outline the specific needs and transition strategies for eligible regions. Funding structure. Just Transition Fund provides 19.7 billion euros in grants for diversifying local economies, supporting small businesses, and upskilling the workforce in carbon-intensive regions. Invest EU Just Transition Scheme encourages investments in sustainable infrastructures projects by de-risking private and public investment. Public Sector Loan Facility offers 1.3 billion euros in EU grants paired with loans from the European Investment Bank. This is aimed at financing public infrastructure, such as green public transport or energy-efficient public buildings. Section 3. EU Emission Trading System. As mentioned in Section 1, the ETS is the EU's primary policy tool for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It operates on a cap-and-trade system. But what does that mean? Think of it like this. The European Union sets a cap or limit on the total amount of greenhouse gases that industries can emit. Within this cap, companies receive or buy emission allowances. Each allowance gives them the right to emit 1 ton of CO2. Sectors covered: power generation, heavy industry sectors like steel, cement, and chemicals. Aviation within Europe. By 2027, a second trading system, ETS2, will extend coverage to emission from buildings, road transport, and additional sectors, addressing areas where emissions have been harder to curb. Key features: cap on emissions. The total number of allowances available is limited and decreases over time, tightening the cap. Tradable allowances. If a company emits less CO2 than its allowances permit, it can sell the surplus. Conversely, if it emits more, it must buy extra allowances. Progressive reduction. As the cap lowers, the cost of allowances increases. This creates a financial incentive for companies to innovate and reduce their emissions. Firms that exceed their allowances without purchasing more face substantial fines. Section 3.1, Next Generation EU and the RRF. In response to the economic shock caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the European Union created Next Generation European Union, a temporary recovery instrument. Its core component is the Recovery and Resilience Facility. The RRF supports reforms and investments proposed by member states and their national recovery and resilience plans. These plans must align with the European Union's green and digital transformation goals. At least 37% of each RRP must be dedicated to climate-related objectives. The RRF has 6 policy pillars. Green transition, e.g., investments in renewable energy or climate-resilient agriculture. Digital transformation, such as expanding broadband or digital education. Smart, sustainable, and inclusive growth, especially supporting SMEs, small and medium-sized enterprises. Social and territorial cohesion, reducing inequalities between regions and groups. Health and resilience, strengthening healthcare and crisis preparedness. Policies for the next generation, promoting education, skills, and youth employment. The RRF follows a performance-based system. Funds are disbursed only after a member state has met specific milestones and targets. This ensures accountability and progress. A list of 14 common indicators across all 6 pillars has been set in this regulation. Here you can find some useful links. To search for examples of reforms and investments supported by the RRF under each priority, explore this map. To monitor the implementation of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan within your country, consult the RRF scoreboard. Go to the Milestones and Targets section of the scoreboard to monitor the achievement status of single targets. Member states have put forward extensive measures in their national RRPs targeting the SME sector both directly and indirectly. To search funding opportunities, check your national regional government portal. Small and medium-sized enterprises are the backbone of Europe's economy, but accessing the right kind of financing or support to grow sustainably and innovate can be a challenge. This final unit helps you to understand where and how SMEs and social enterprises can tap into European Union level funding, investment opportunities, and outcome-based financing mechanisms. You will explore both financial tools and strategic partnerships designed to support impact-driven businesses in navigating Europe's green and social transition. Section 4.1, Outcome-based mechanisms and outcome funds. OBMs, tools to deliver public services and address social challenges via contracts funded by risk-taking social investors. OBMs reduce impact risk for public entities, philanthropic donors, and commercial investors. Key examples: social impact bonds, SIBs, development impact bonds, DIBs, payment by results, PBR, schemes social success notes. Refer to the training fish for a detailed explanation. Core feature: investors are repaid by the outcomes payer, e.g., government, donor. Only if predefined outcomes are achieved by the service provider. Outcome funds, financial vehicles pooling public or donor funding to finance multiple OBMs in parallel. Increase the scalability and coordination across initiatives. Section 4.2, European Investment Bank and European Investment Fund. EIB borrows funds from capital markets and provides loans to projects that align with EU objectives. EIB is the majority shareholders of the European Investment Fund, which provides finance for SMEs through venture capital and microfinancing targeted at innovative and new SMEs, loan guarantees for financial institutions lending to SMEs, development of risk capital markets, assisting EU countries and those joining the EU. If you are an entrepreneur seeking finance, contact EIF intermediaries in your country to check eligibility for equity and debt products. Section 4.3, European Social Fund Plus. If you are a social enterprise, ESF Plus should be one of the first funding opportunities to explore when seeking EU support. ESF Plus funds projects that contribute to a fairer and more sustainable economy and to a more social Europe by boosting employment, developing skills, fostering social inclusion, etc. To apply to ESF Plus generic funding, see the work program in your country or explore its specific funds dedicated to social economy development, ESF Plus Social Innovation or Social Investment Arena. Single member states administrations are responsible for the selection and award procedures of ESF Plus projects, as well as of the monitoring, management and payments, shared management. To prepare and submit your proposal, consult the instruction on how to apply for EU funding. To access funding opportunity, find the calls on the EU Funding and Tenders portal. Section 4.4, Invest EU Program. The Invest EU program supports sustainable investment, innovation and job creation. It consists of the Invest EU Advisory Hub that offers technical support and capacity building and the Invest EU Fund. The fund supports public and private investments across 4 key policy areas: sustainable infrastructure, research, innovation and digitalization, small and medium-sized businesses, social investment and skills. Focus on SMEs, key area 3. Support to innovative SMEs and those operating in the cultural and creative sectors. Help to businesses facing difficulties accessing finance, including startups, younger and smaller companies, which are considered higher risk by commercial lenders. Visit the Access to Finance portal to find financial intermediaries partnering with InvestEU for debt or equity financing. Summing up, European Union policy. All action plans under the Green Deal offer SMEs valuable opportunities for innovation, but also challenges in meeting stricter standards. EU legislation. The Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive is one of the most groundbreaking and influential pieces of EU legislation in the field of sustainability. It also affects SMEs not directly subject to it, which still face reporting obligations and part of larger companies' supply chains. EU funding. Member states have put forward extensive measures in their national recovery and resilience plans, targeting the SMEs sector, both directly and indirectly. To search funding opportunities, check your national regional government portal. EU opportunities. If you are a social enterprise, ESF Plus should be one of the first funding opportunities to explore when seeking European Union support. ESF Plus funds projects that contribute to a fairer and more sustainable economy and to a more social Europe. We have reached the end of this training. Thank you for listening.